Okay, everyone, I call the meeting to order. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from last month's meeting? Yeah, do we have any changes?
No.
Corrections? Okay, vote to approve, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, upcoming events. Do you have anything?
The next event coming up is November 11th, the Underground Railroad presentation by Carol Coons.
Yes.
Okay,
And I'm reaching out to her to get some text together to advertise that.
great.
And minus whatever we do during the projected Winterfest. I think that's the last event for the year.
Okay, and Winterfest is, what's the date on that again?
There is none yet.
Okay, that's why I don't have it.
You know,
When
it
will
can be Saturday in
those,
December.
when will those details come together? Who's responsible for planning that? event?
That's going to be manager's office.
Okay,
Probably activities committee a little bit, but
okay,
I'm going to talk about that.
okay. Well, if we could, Georgette and I were just starting to think about the Christmas display. So it would be nice to make sure that we have, you know, some sort of involvement in Winterfest to feature the Christmas display.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Any ideas on what you want to do for Christmas display?
We weren't gonna go so far as to like ask the public for any loans, but we were gonna ask the volunteers, just the basic like vintage ornaments, toys. Suzanne and Dick just donated a big box of dolls. So. What's that?
I said, I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You hear now?
Can you hear us now?
Better?
Okay.
Okay.
that'll be fun. I've wanted to do that. I think I wanted to do this last year, but we were totally closed down. You know how we have that big light up Santa
No, I
down?
don't.
Don't we have a big light up Santa downstairs?
What?
Do we have a big light
Don't
up
we have a
Santa?
big light up Santa downstairs?
I don't know that we have a light up Santa.
I'll have to check because I thought I saw that because I thought it'd be fun. You know how kids get
Somebody
their
might have brought one.
pictures with Santa.
Yeah,
If we could get them with that
Yeah,
Santa,
yeah.
wouldn't that be funny?
yeah. Okay. Well, I'll be sending out an email to the volunteers soon about, you know, bringing in any vintage items you might want to loan or donate. And then we'll go through all the stuff in the basement, me and Suzanne and Georgette, see, see what needs to be done. So.
Okay. Okay, I guess then you're next up, Kevin, with the proposal for the electronic signage.
So do you want to bring one of those up there?
Yeah, start. But using this for this, so. That working for everyone? Great.
So last time we talked about, we had prices for some of the electronic signage. And Mr. Grimm was saying, okay, these all make sense. And there was some discussion about other signage within McCandless. And one of the things he asked to see was, well, what would this specifically for the Heritage Center, if one avenue was to go Heritage Center alone, which is what our focus is on, and one avenue is to look at multiple signs electronically. If we were to do the heritage sign, which was a discussion about what we had done previously, what would this actually look like? So we had some base costs for the electronic component. Previously, we also had some base costs for the fixed sign, or the sign where you could put the letters on. And in the lower right-hand corner of that, you can kind of see where we were, a couple of years ago when we were looking at that. They both act the same way, in a sense, whether it's the electronic sign, if it's front or one side or two sides, or if it's the letterboard sign, they both would be housed in something. And so what I did this month was just sort of looking at one, what could this look like? And two, where could it be placed specifically for the Heritage Center? And then also when there was some discussion about it being placed to sort of brand the campus, if you will, of McCandless Properties down on this corner here. So the first page there is, I kind of came and looked at, and Toby had spoken in the past that there are some of this block and brick. And on the right-hand side, you can see it there. It's that sort of beige block. And also that, clearly we can pull from the colors of the building. And so I also just sort of looked at some of the architecture there. And you can see in the lower, if you just stick one of these things up, be it electronic or letterboard, on one hand, it's just a shape. On the other hand, you can surround it with, if you will, some architecture and some materials to have it feel more like the center itself. So that's just a quick sketch there, and you can kind of see it's some of the angles, the roof lines. We have the little bell up in front on top of the Heritage Center. I know there was some concern early on, John, and you had mentioned when we were talking about this and never really showing them anything visually, they were like, well, what's it going to look like? It's going to look like a big sore thumb next to the center. This is like maybe the first step in saying, no, this could be something that looks like it's part of the center. So, and then if you can click to the second one there. Page there. Yeah. So when we had the discussion a couple years ago, the idea was that was first looked at was putting something sort of on the side of the hillside there that would slope to the side, but would be high enough that it could be viewed from both angles whenever you're coming on, what road is that? I think more road, right?
Yeah.
So I just quickly popped that in there. That's the proportions could be bigger and smaller depending on where you are, but the idea was we were looking at both 3x7 on an electronic, 4x8 on a letterboard, so it's roughly proportionate. There was also some talk about how high it could go as well, so that it could be seen more, when you're driving by. So a lot of those things would have to be considered if this design would work. But the idea, again, to have some branding there in terms of the name, and then it's almost a 2/3, 1/3 with messaging. So that was our original discussion. Then we had talked about last time, if you can go to the third page there, what if this was something that was just set down the hill, would only be one side? Maybe the second side just has a simple welcome statement or something like that, or it could also be, how like when you're walking around the park, you can pin up different things for different notices. Maybe the second side, the back side there is something like that for bulletin board for community events or something like that. Again, this is the low-tech version. So in this case, it could either be that on one side, on the second side, or it could be two-sided digital, or it could be one-sided letterboard. But again, I think that can sit there, and if you get the materials and the colors, you can kind of see it could work well there. The problem with this is it's less viewable from the road. It's more traditional to the way a church sign would be, as you're sort of driving by and you're turning your head and you're catching a simpler message. But it is delivering a message, and it could say things, Winterfest this weekend. They should be very simple, very direct messages. The third page there, option 3, is there was some discussion about moving it out to the corner there between Grubb and Ingmar, where something could be sitting there and sort of almost an introduction to that area, whether you're continuing on or going right. the challenge with that is that you certainly can see it on Ingomar. You can certainly see it whenever you're turning into Grub, but when you're coming back up, if it's a one-sided piece and it has to sit, one way has to win, it's kind of not really going to work until you go up to the stop sign there. But then you can interact with it that way. You know, if you're coming up Grub Road, clearly you're going to stop. You can see things if you turn your head to the right. So that's another option there. The only challenge with this is that, you know, the connection between the architecture is a little bit less obvious, but it kind of connects. You know, not sure whether when we had talked about whatever happens with this version, if there is a way to do signs in other part of McCandless, maybe here this sign would tie in with those types of signs rather than with the center. So they're probably going to be more McCandless signs rather than the History Center sign. So the further we take this sign away from the actual History Center, the more it becomes general use. And I think the discussion at last time was, well, if we're going digital, if we're going LED, it's for everybody. If it's just a letterboard sign, it could just be for the center.
Yeah.
And the price.
Excuse me, you made one comment that if we go with option 2,
Mhm.
you'd lose 3/4 of the people seeing the sign that we would hope to get. Because it's the cars coming up and down the road
Mhm.
who you want to see it.
Mhm.
And as you're driving along, you know, you automatically see it if it's in front of you or on either side. But once it can only be seen out your window, you drive by before you even get to see what's
That's
going on.
correct. When you think about traffic doesn't really slow up at that point. It's still a pretty good distance before the red light there. My only, obviously I think there's a lot of pros for option 1, but through this process, people have pointed out concerns about option 1 as well. In terms of proximity to the road, can it be done? I guess a lot of those were more for the digital side. But that's why I'm bringing up option 2. It is more like what is the church on Memorial near the cemetery has a big electronic sign.
Right.
That's one side up on the hill. Now, again, that's at an intersection. There's other churches that you'll be driving by and they just have the sign in front of the organization. Messages have to be very, very simple there, and that would be what this would play off of.
You're still talking about doing a digital sign, correct?
We were asked last time to talk about both. One was a letterboard, which is what
You mean from the council or here?
in this room, in this discussion. We had previously estimated, we had started by using what I'm calling a letterboard, where you actually have the independent letters putting on there. Mr. Grimm asked us to look at that as one option, and Toby as well was saying, hey, if we can't solve the problem for the entire township, also, which we have that kind of issue that we're going to explore, what can we do if we're just looking at the
I
center?
get that. I did speak with Jerry Hoffman a couple weeks ago, and the McCandless Industrial Development Corporation is committed to getting a sign out here. If we want to do a sign, they're willing to help.
Yeah, that's been true for a number of months or a number of years, yeah.
So the bottom line is I would hate to see us waste an opportunity here and just put up a letter sign when, a digital sign, number one, it's going to save us manpower. It's going to last longer because simply the maintenance on it is less.
Mhm.
And number 3, I think it's going to reach more people. It's going to make more of a positive impression about the town of McCandless and about the History Center.
Yeah, and it might be easier to sell to council if it's a multi-use sign.
Yeah, I don't think anything you're saying is new. We've discussed this,
Uh-huh.
both these, a couple different ways. The issue is with Mr. Grimm and the council now. I mean, I see the pros and cons for both of them. When we shoot really big, they pull us back and say, what about this? Think of just the center. If we shoot too small, they say, what about doing it really big? So at this point, the information is available. The powers that be can make a decision. as to which way they want to go. And I can see pros and cons for both situations.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna be happy no matter what we get. If we get a sign out in front of this place, it's gonna be a huge difference.
I would agree.
But if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Let's do it right.
We have to convince council that this is for the community, not just the Heritage Center.
Well, I agree, because the more people that you impact, the easier a sell it is going to be.
That's right.
Well, I think that if our goal is to try to, convince to bring the township in, I mean, you know what I mean? It's gonna have to be digital, because a sign where, like, with the letters, I had that at my library, and it's a nightmare
Oh,
to
no,
get
I-
people, that.
No, that's why we
It's-
started there and we
Right,
went to
and with the
digital. So
digital, you can
I
have
fully
more
support
than
digital.
just one sign.
I gotta tell you something. Having this perspective is completely different than what we've seen before.
Well, that's
Thank
why I
you so
wanted to
much
do
for
this, was
that.
just move this ahead a little bit,
Yeah.
because we can talk sort of in the abstract about signs and what they could look like. But I figured to move the ball forward, at least, let me take a couple pictures, let me throw at least something in there so we
This
can
is
kind of
something-
visualize it.
This is something that I will guarantee you the council didn't see before.
Okay,
Okay, and if you look, if you would go back, John, and show those signs. If you go back and show the signs, none of those signs that you showed are obtrusive, nor are they taking anything away from traffic. You give them a proper perspective.
Mhm.
Now, I've heard the argument several times that, well, we can't do a digital sign. Well, you have a digital sign on Coldwell Banker, you have a digital sign at North Allegheny Senior High School. You have digital signs throughout the township or throughout the town. So I think a small one here, particularly if you're looking at, this is option one, that would be fantastic looking.
It's impressive looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I think it's also unobtrusive, it's not like,
It would bring
Larry.
attention to the center and to the township. So, yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
That's
that's great,
fantastic.
Kevin.
well, so maybe, from the committee standpoint, we're kind of putting some things in Bob's hands now. If he would like me to tweak anything so that he can put together whatever he needs to talk to the council, I'd be happy to.
And as far as I know, he mentioned this last week, he did put together, the budget, the
Mhm.
draft budget for council to look at, and there is money in the capital projects fund
Okay.
for signage.
Okay.
Great.
And the quantity or the estimates I gave him previously, again, they were those like the board's two sides. Once you kind of make a determination, that's whenever you can go back to the vendor and get more firm estimates. So at this point, as he's looking at this, you're not going to get a nailed down price, especially now. Everybody's hedging their estimates, especially on these things because of availability. And I know we're all sick of hearing the supply chain, but these certainly affect things because a lot of these things are
Let
made
me tell you
overseas.
something, in my business, and we deal with cameras every day, they're now telling us 15 to 20 weeks.
Yeah, everything's going to be delayed, but that, it doesn't mean you shouldn't start the process. Just build in
Yeah, I agree.
10%
Agree.
overage cost or whatever. So, okay.
Okay, that looks
Yeah,
good.
this was a very good job. Visual sign is what's
I hope
nice.
this does move it ahead then.
Good. So, all right, so with this is just gonna be passed on to Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, and did you?
I copied him on the-
Okay, and if like he has, I don't know if he'd listened to this discussion or if he would like to chat with me, don't give me a buzz, I'll be happy to talk with him at any time.
I'll bring it up when we touch base on Friday.
Okay, thank you, John.
Okay. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the annual appeal. John gave me some numbers and I put this together. We had done an annual appeal in 2018. I put together a database from our visitor sign-in sheets. It was a database of I guess approximately 700.
Yeah, 6 something, yeah.
Yeah. And I put together this brochure and this is what we sent out. As you can see, it cost us $625.65. We brought in over $1,200, but that was from 20 individuals or groups that donated. So the response was very low for the amount that we sent out, even though we did, make money. So Kevin and I had a long conversation about doing an annual appeal, and Abby and I have gone back and forth about it too, because doing an email annual appeal is appealing because it's so much cheaper. The problem with that is something we've discussed, and I sent an email to John about that. There's no mechanism for people to get an email appeal from us and then for us to say, okay, hit this button and you can donate. So I think until McCandless gets something like that set up, whether they do PayPal or Stripe or whatever, I'm not sure that an email appeal is going to work for us. So if we go back to doing a print-based one, we have the database that I put together in 2018. Abby has the visitor sheets of people who have signed in since 2019. So if somebody took on the very tedious job of comparing my database to the sign-in sheet, we could have a more viable database.
What format are they in? Excel?
My database is in Excel.
What about yours?
They're
She just
paper
has the
sheets.
physical sign-in sheets.
Yeah,
Because if they were both in Excel, we could merge them.
Well, yeah, if you can, I guess, to make those physical signing sheets actually into a usable database, they're gonna have to be plugged into Excel.
Mhm.
And then, John, if I'm not wrong, I think we have what, constant comment or,
Oh, we have eye contact.
yeah, one of them. I mean, if you put the two things in it, it will merge and kick out,
duplicates.
duplication. So it's just a really matter of making the sign-in sheets into a actionable database.
I mean, honestly, there's not like hundreds of
Mhm.
names and addresses in the sign-in sheet, so it's feasible to do within, week.
And I guess what I was thinking of doing is to look for the duplicates. Because if somebody is in my 2018 database and has signed in again since then.
Oh, that would be your target audience.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, you can do it, or you can you can
Yeah.
just consider them two databases that can be merged and let the tool do what the tool does.
Yeah.
And then, John, we were talking about whether within the whole databases that you have, whether we can have a segregated database just of History Center contacts, but then also have access to other databases that you may have, be they people on council, be vendors. I'm not sure what other type of databases you may have for.
You have the ability to access the voter database. It seems to me that if you're gonna.
When you're sending e-communications, you need to opt-in system. That's illegal to tap into other types of databases without permission. If John has databases.
Or purchase.
Or purchase, yeah.
Okay, well, you do have some political PACs that have purchased those databases. So, I mean, I know that we have. Okay, and I think that if you're gonna cast a net, we already know who's interested in the Heritage Center, the people that have visited. What we want to do is cast a wider net. There are people that at the end of the year are looking for places to give charitable contributions to. Some people need tax write-offs. Some people are looking to do good things in the community. My idea would be, I understand where everybody is on this, and I get it. For a little bit more money, if we cast the net a little bit wider, the benefits could be fantastic.
John, is there any type of databases that we own or databases or restrictions on databases?
Not that I'm aware of.
How
Like, my
about the,
database through eye contact is basically, 4,150 is roughly who I would send the mail out to.
Is it every resident or
It's everyone who's signed up over the years.
some of you?
So that's how much I would be sending out if we were to do it that way. We
John,
also
would
create a
we,
separate list with the folks, the 600, 700 people who visited. We can create a separate list doing that. And if we want to do sort of get vendors involved, maybe businesses, we have a small list of regular community day participants who we can send it out to. That's like about 100 or so.
And you know what? You have the car dealers that would genuinely get involved because they want that kind of publicity. You have people here in this stretch, which I'm gonna talk about here in a minute, that would love to be involved and love to be recognized by the township. So,
Would we have access to the ambulance authority's database?
But these are emails, you know.
Yeah, well, that's how I got my request to sign up this year. They sent me an email and I went right online and did it online.
I did the same thing.
So Carolyn, you had worked on that sponsorship letter and that was directed at businesses. But what didn't we have, wasn't that kicked back to Mr. Grimm?
Yes, I think where we left it was John had taken it and discussed it with Bob and he didn't see any issues. So the letter as it stands should be ready to go. We could use that as an annual appeal if we want to for the end of the year, or if we want to use it as something to kickstart 2022, we could do that as well. I think either is a good strategy.
Is the audience just, did you say more corporate or business on that, or is it community-wide?
The audience on that was looking for business sponsorships within the Northern Allegheny region. But we could adjust the language a little bit to make it fit an annual appeal as well and save the business, like I said, for a later date.
If we can build quite a war chest, $25 at a time. I mean, when you're hitting some of these businesses and you're hitting them at the end of the year, okay, some people have money that's left over and some people have money that they've already allocated for the following year for charitable organizations. I mean, it's got to take a concerted effort and it's got to take it, like I said, $25 at a time.
Well, as an entity of the town, why aren't we allowed to just send a mailer to every town resident?
I would agree.
Are we allowed to do that?
Well, the mailer, what we're trying to do is see if we can, based on what we learned here, that if we can minimize snail mail costs, printing and mailing.
But
and
if
take
there's no
advantage of-
way to donate online, then
Well, do we know that, John?
I mean, at this point, I asked yesterday, just to follow up again, I have not heard back about the status of our online payment. We said apparently we do have some sort of PayPal account. I don't know what it was used for. I think it was probably used once.
Mhm.
I don't have access to it. I don't know.
I think the amount of people who would receive an email and then have to print something at home and send in a check is even less than 20 people.
Yeah.
Who got something in the mail.
Right.
I mean, the traditional request would be, you send them something, you send them a self-addressed stamp envelope or something like that,
They
or a
return
card
it.
for them to return it. That's pretty 10 years ago when you think what people
Yeah.
are doing is clicking a button from their own PayPal account.
You know what?
money. So,
We could set up a Venmo account.
yeah, there's a number of different ways we could do it. We just
We just have to.
see that we're allowed to do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, because like I went on to see if we could set up a PayPal account, but you need either a tax ID number or a social security number. So that's because we're part of the town, it's going to have to go through the town.
Okay.
So we're just trying to figure out if this is even a viable option, or if for now we just say, okay, we just can't do it because there's no mechanism to get money online.
Okay, now Diane, you've had experience with what I'm about to ask about,
Okay,
and that's the regional asset district
yes,
funds. We, as an organization, even though we are joined at the hip with the town of McCandless, we should be able to request those funds from the regional asset district. We should be able to take care of our operating budget for an entire year. I mean, you're talking about, if we requested $30,000, and let's say we get 15, as long as you're sticking with that, you're getting $15,000 pretty much every year.
if they approve it.
Have you tried around? I mean, that's pretty much a standard thing for every nonprofit to go and
Right, I've done RAD with other organizations and I'm on their website now. I know we've looked into it and I believe at the time we looked into it last, they only accepted from 501c3s. But I believe they also should have something that's county and municipal.
Yes.
So I can look into that and I can reach out to Diane Hunt. She was my contact there when I was with the Philharmonic and she could give us some more information.
Here's the other thing, Carolyn. Yeah, I don't know how Jackie's School of Dance qualifies under a 501(c), but I hardly think that Jackie's starving teaching dancing classes. Okay, I don't think that the original Mattress Factory qualifies as a 501(c).
Are you saying they got RAD?
Yeah, they got RAD money.
Could they've gotten, a lot of people will set up programs specifically for underserved children, and that's what they get funded
I
for.
don't know that.
Or,
But
yeah,
I'm just saying, for instance, we're never gonna know unless we try. Unless we throw the dice out there, we're never gonna know.
Well, I'll look into that. And like I said, I'll contact Diane. I'll put that on my list of things to do and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
is there any way we can pin Bob down with a yay or nay?
I'm going to follow up with them on Friday.
Okay.
During our weekly meeting, I'm going to bring up this online payment thing again, saying
You know
they're
what,
really interested.
I think that's gonna have to go in front of council.
I'm not sure about that, because the idea was they were going to set it up through FNB.
I thought that anything that financial that had the possibility of bringing in any more than $50, it's a municipal law, that it has to go through council.
That I'm not aware of.
I mean, because
Because that'd be more about getting the mechanism set up to.
yeah, and you know, you would think money coming in, and if it's just coming into an account without any sort of, you know, like when we write out checks for the History Center, I remember one out every year, you know, it's kind of like, Toby told us, write down if you want it to go to the History Center, because the check is written out to the town of McCandless, and make sure you
It
decide
goes into that
where,
fund.
where you want to go, because it's going into a fund, but it can be segregated out for the History Center. So the mechanism has to do that as well, or it's just going into a general fund when we're doing all this fundraising for the center. So that would be a big thing to make sure.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited.
Good.
You know, we've been,
And I have some great news to share with all of you when the time is appropriate.
Okay, good.
if we can just know that, you know, we don't have to do snail mail because we can take advantage of a lot of other possibilities of routing people to give, because it usually is an impulse. Sometimes it's just, oh, you made this great case for something. Oh yeah, I'll click the button and give you, you know, $25 from PayPal. And it's no big deal. I don't have to write a check out. I don't have to wait. So
If the answer is no, that
yeah, then
payment
we'll do something else.
processing, do we want to visit a paper one or
Yeah,
should we just?
I think we do.
I think we
we should
do.
do something.
I think, I
Because
mean,
That's what we
even,
have.
I mean, we still cleared
yeah, you
over $600, which is some, you know, $600 we didn't have before.
Yeah,
But to Joe's point, if you want to use a broad brush, right, if you want to get more people, your cost is going to increase.
It is.
You know,
So
your mailing cost is going to increase.
It's like when you go to North Park, if you put one line in the water versus a net, you're gonna get one fish. You know, we want to get as many fish as we can.
I mean, what do you consider as a normal return? Like, I've always heard, if you get 3 to 5%
5%
response,
is great.
you're doing great. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, if we're putting to do that kind of shotgun approach, we might be putting $3,000 to $5,000 into this, hoping to get back $8,000, depending on
Right.
the give.
And there's some other things, like I said, that when the time is appropriate.
Because I would like to keep, like what we do here is the annual appeal and the sponsorship that Carolyn was working on. I would prefer to keep them separate.
Yeah.
Because the way you approach a business is
It's
different than the way you approach an individual.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you know
And
what?
Diane, and I was just gonna say too, I think that that's a good thing to bring up, just about strategically thinking about our donors. It seems like email and any kind of electronic communication, even though it might have less of a return, without some sort of direct button that they can give online, it will at least spread awareness of the Heritage Center. And if there is an option of giving and noting in your check where that donation should go, I think it's worth letting people know so we can cast that wide net. And then as we get more targeted with the list of people we know have come to the Heritage Center or the list of businesses that we know are in the region, those asks could become a lot more targeted towards
Exactly.
the people and the motivations that we're trying to reach.
Like, do we want to take the shotgun approach, or do we want to have a very targeted, like, okay, this person was in the original database, this person has still come in. Do these people have attended programs? So it's a question of how we want to build our database.
And the other thing is too, that you can take this and approach it from different perspectives.
Mhm.
You know, the more often, it's like having two different people from the same company bid on a job. You got two shots at it rather than one,
Mhm.
okay? So.
And from a messaging perspective, I think, you know, Carolyn, what you're saying, we have two challenges. One, we can build awareness, and we can also try to connect from a messaging bit, like, do you value this resource that maybe you're not as familiar with? So we have to build some sort of affinity, and we've got some really creative people that we can come up with some ideas that really are a little bit stickier, you know, rather than just a letter. I think is very appropriate for businesses, but we need a headline, catchy graphics, something support, you know, a message, proof points, some quotes. Diane was saying she got some really great quotes from people who came for the it was the reunion.
1980
Yeah.
reunion.
So to really start connecting people, the way this communicated, we can build upon that even more.
Right, I mean, because to get the individual donation, you gotta tug the heartstring,
Yeah,
that's an emotional
Yeah.
reaction,
So
and that's
if we
why
know
I
we
think
can
they
do
need to be
that,
separate.
John, I think we could all work together and find something that would really hopefully move the needle a little bit here in terms of messaging and make it work. So.
Okay, so segueing on to that, we talked about the end of the year report. Last year, you did the end of the year report. And that was basically just to be given to council to show them what we had done over the year.
Mhm.
So I think if we want to do it again this year, it would just be basically plugging in the numbers, changing out
Well, there
some
was
of the photos, stuff like that, or what do you think?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we have that to look at, but it was not only just the numbers, it was like the nuts and bolts, how many people had volunteered, different
Right.
events, those kind of stuff, but you also had different initiatives, like whenever you went on Facebook. So we'd have to think through
Mhm.
and try and get anything that happened last year, the events, if we have some good photos, if we have, you know, if you give me the 4 or 5, 7 things that you have,
Okay,
and we can use the existing format,
Mhm.
I'd be happy to help it out with help, you know, because it really was just the final product was just a PDF that we sent to everybody. So there wasn't any printing involved, but it had the information and.
Well, did you have a chance to look at the Excel spreadsheet I sent last week or maybe a couple days ago?
It did have, I'm sorry, I don't think I did.
That's
Did
okay.
have
It
content?
has all of that information in
Okay,
there.
great.
So it
great.
has all the volunteer hours.
All the numbers comparative, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a tab at the end for notes like, you know, noting that Emma Bullock passed away this year. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
various things
those
that
are
have happened. And then there was another tab for positive, well, or negative, but feedback from visitors. And so right now, the only comment that I have is the one that you sent. But I know that there are others. You know, I have the sign-in sheets. So I was gonna extract information from there and put it in there. But I mean, when you look at the spreadsheet, just looking at the hours, just of people like in the doors
right,
volunteering, the amount of hours that we all spend volunteering there is like mind blowing.
No.
Not to mention the hours that, you know, you spent making your presentation and you guys working on the annual appeal and all of that,
Mhm.
you know, things that you do at home. So if you come up with a ballpark of things that, of time that you spend outside the center, if you could send that to me, I would like to include that for a better
I
picture.
know
of-
you asked me to do that, like when we were putting it together. Because
Last
I
year,
keep track
yeah.
of my time, just, you know,
Oh,
every
you
hour
do?
that I do. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
Any hour I put on anything for the Heritage Center is, I have, but we could add it to the bucket of it. Are those things written more like little news items, or can you write them like little news items if you're looking at it from almost like the fact, you know, with maybe the obituary there, that talking
Mhm.
about who she is, what she did, why she was important, those types of things, almost more for a general
Mhm.
interest.
Yeah, let me go back and look at your
I'll say, yeah, I don't,
report from last year.
yeah,
Um,
I'd like
But
to be
yeah, I
able to
would-
just plug things in and just make the design happen based on the new content.
yeah,
Okay,
I'd be very interested in helping with that.
okay, great.
And I would say too, depending on when that's completed, that's something that could be added to our website and in even just PDF form as it is. And if we do send electronic communications, it could be linked, and those pieces of information tend to have that emotional reaction on donors too.
I think also whenever, when you're talking about RAD and people like that, if you have that information, historical data, they'll come and look for it on your website.
Yes.
Or if we start collecting that and have it every year, it's easy for Carolyn to pull it and add it to her,
Let's say, this
yeah,
is what we do.
requests and stuff, so.
Okay, so if we do a paper annual appeal, do you guys want to go with basically how we did it before or redesign?
I'd probably change some of the pictures to make it up more up to date.
Yeah, I'd do that, and
Maybe put a Jim Howard thing on there, maybe put some of the other programs. that
Well,
we did
yeah.
on there.
I would change all of that, and then I would get rid of Joe here and,
what?
do something
I
different.
actually wouldn't get rid of Joe.
Hmm.
And you know what? The only reason I say that, Diane, is because so many people still associate the center with his memory.
I know, I
So-
know.
When you walk into the center and you go near the office, everything that is on the wall is Joe Bullock stuff. Okay, so I don't know that I would definitely pull that off. Maybe not this year, maybe in future years, but you still want to tug at people's hearts a little bit.
When we get those reunion groups and they remember Joe.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
He's a big part of life in the school district for the first 60 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see maybe just freshening up the events that happen there.
Mhm.
And if your narrative there is still,
Or, even put a different picture of Joe like, on that back cover when they dedicated the center. You don't necessarily have to quote him either. Make him a part of parcel of what's going on.
I definitely want to put a quote in there,
I like seeing him say something.
but I was thinking about using a partial quote that I got from the reunion because it's different,
I mean, you could make Joe smaller. He doesn't have to take up the whole
right?
back page.
No, I mean, that's layout.
We'll play
what
around
stories
with
you
it.
have,
Yeah.
like that,
You
yeah.
could have him looking up over the center too.
Photoshop.
Okay, so we're now on to open and miscellaneous topics, and Joe's going to share his big news with us, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, he's been waiting.
I couldn't keep shut up for that long.
No,
Two things. First of all, I want to tell everybody how much I appreciate you allowing me to do the football thing. And we have been given a very nice honor. The North Allegheny football program would like us to give that speech or that presentation at every of North Allegheny football player.
Oh, cool.
That being said, the football parents have agreed to give the center for each level $150 donation.
All right.
yay.
Great.
So I'm in the process of scheduling that with Art Walker, and we will get it done.
Yay.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, I spoke with the people that own the par 3. Now, if you know anything about the par 3, it used to be lit up like crazy. People plan there until late at night. Well, I got to thinking, maybe we need to have a par 3 tournament to raise money for the center.
Oh,
Be nice.
okay.
And we are going to start it at 8:30 in the evening. Okay.
How long will they keep playing into the fall?
Well,
The facility,
I don't know whether we're gonna get
or
it
maybe in the spring.
maybe in the spring. But I also spoke with Rico, Rico's, and his son owns Tomato Puck.
Hmm.
So we would do something, and I know this sounds funny because normally when you do a golf outing, you have it on a big golf course. A par 3 golf outing with dinner included at tomato puffs.
I love it. That's a great idea.
Okay, we would charge $50 a head. Okay, the whole thing's probably gonna cost us about $15 a head. Okay, and at the end of the day, maybe we have drink tickets for the Creedence Clearwater Revival, the bike place.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great.
I think it would be a blast. I think it would bring a lot of people out. And again, it would bring attention to the center that we don't have right now.
How could we, I mean, could the kickoff be at the center
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then they then go across the street? So
Where
it's
do you
almost like
think we're
a
gonna-
traveling
where do you
kind
think
of
we're gonna
event.
Do the instructions. They're
And
gonna
we
be
can
right
announce it on
inside.
our new sign.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, you know, again, it's bringing people to the center that would not normally come here. Okay, it's making the Heritage Center more mainstream.
We could also do,
And we,
look for some sort of programming tie-in at the time too.
yeah, but here's the greatest thing. We could sell holes to businesses.
Mhm.
Traditional golf.
I think that could be a great fundraiser for us in the year 2022.
Do a spring and a fall.
You know what?
Yeah,
You can only get, the weird thing about it
if
is
it's fun though,
you can
people
only
will do it
get
again.
36 golfers
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
par 3, 9-hole course at one time. So yeah, maybe you do it twice.
Yeah, make it a must.
But you know what? Like I said, I spoke with David and Rico. They're all on board. They'll do a spaghetti dinner. They'll do the sides and everything for 8. You know, I spoke to the people over at the par 3. Now, you know, people are gonna have to walk the course, but it's a par 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, gosh.
but they are.
Buy a
going-
ticket and donate it.
They are
If you
going
can't
to
do
turn
that.
on the lights for
Can't do
us.
par three.
They're gonna let us play until 11 o'clock at night. Okay, we can get Dick's to donate a bunch of gifts. You know, we can get businesses to donate gifts and gift cards. This could be a blast.
No.
It makes me want to take up golf.
You know what?
You don't need to.
You don't need
Just
to
hit it and have fun.
It's just good.
That's true. That's true.
So
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea.
that's what I came up with. I hope you guys don't mind me coming up with these.
That's
ideas.
genius. No, Joe, that's
I'm a little
genius.
screwball.
Yeah.
I'm a little
And
screwball.
especially with Joe being the golf coach, I mean, we have a lot
Yeah.
of golf
Ooh,
stuff.
yeah.
at the Heritage
That's
Center,
Lucy, that's a
so.
good, yeah,
Well,
it could be
that's
the
science,
Joe
which
Bullock
leads me to my
invitation.
next-
Yeah, the Joe Bullock
There you
invitation.
go.
Yeah,
That's
we could tie
perfect.
Joe.
It
The
leads me to my next thing.
Joe Bullock invitation, that's good.
Well, just hold on to your
Oh,
pants
boy.
now.
Uh,
I have run a children's charity for 12 years here in Western Pennsylvania. I'm sure that you've all heard of the Moose Lodges across the country. Well, I was the youngest governor of the Pittsburgh Moose in its 120-year history. What I did was I did what they used to do out here called the Knights of Columbus Tournament at Vestal, where they invited 4 teams. Well, I took that idea and I did it down in Shaler, and I got up to 24 teams for a one-day tournament. Okay. We raised $25,000 in one shot. Okay. And what we did was we had a dinner that we sold tickets to the day before. Okay. There was no cost for the softball tournament. We sold tickets to a dinner. It was a spaghetti dinner. We had all food donated. We had donations from businesses that paid for all the umpires and all the fields and all the balls. And we walked away with 25 grand. I would like to do that here. And I have the fields. I've spoken with Jeff Fry. Do you know Jeff?
no,
Jeff actually runs the Greater Pittsburgh Girls Softball League, and he used to be the vice president of Ingmar Franklin Park.
okay.
We do have fields all over this region that we can access. Okay, that belong to the Pittsburgh Power, that belong to McCandless, that belong to McCandless Athletic Association, belong to Ingleheart Franklin Park. And I've done this before. I know how to do it. I know how to get teams to come to this. Instead of calling it the Moose Hard Tournament, I'd like to call it the Joe Bullock Tournament for benefit of the Northern Area Heritage Center.
So it's a softball tournament. What ages are these like?
It can be from 8 to 18.
Okay.
We have different age groups set up.
So, but they're for kids, not for adults.
Not for adults. It's all kids. And I go to the scheduling meeting for the Greater Pittsburgh Girls Softball League in April. or in
Yeah, I mean,
March.
I coached a lot for McCandless and Ingomar has a pretty big tournament.
Yeah, but
it's more their competitive tournaments,
what we
leagues and
would, what
such.
we would do this over would be Father's Day.
That's whenever they have their tournaments all in.
Well, that's when I had my tournament. Ingomar always came.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, I really believe that this could be a huge moneymaker, even if we put it off and did it in the fall. It could be a huge moneymaker. We need all hands on deck. But it just could be so beneficial. Can you imagine? We wouldn't even, it would be a stop and run as far as putting the sign up for town council.
Is it, when you say softball, I mean, you're talking primarily girls playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have done both boys and girls in some years.
Yeah.
But primarily, people come out to support the girls way more than they do to support the boys.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I'd have to check it. You said you were talking to the guy from the McCandless team
No,
now?
I spoke with Jeff Fry, who is
Okay.
in charge of the Greater Pittsburgh Girls Softball.
Yeah.
I know Metzger, Dave Metzger.
Yeah.
And Dave has been a part of my charity in the past. So, I mean. the
Girls
people-
softball goes up and down in McCandless, and it's, I'm not sure.
Well, it
My
goes
daughter
up
sort
and
of aged
down
out
because
now.
you have some fast pitch and some slow pitch. A lot of migration is going to fast pitch, but I think we could pull it off.
Did you guys know Ron Dodson?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When I was vice president of baseball from the cameras, he was vice president of softball.
Well, you knew George Chavlik then.
Oh,
too.
yeah, George, yeah.
Matty Pope. I played
Yes,
for Matty
Matty
Pope.
Pope, uh-huh.
So that's all I got. I know that I'm taking up a lot of time.
No, but those are great, that's great, great ideas.
Carolyn's gonna help me chair all this stuff.
I'm used to being voluntold.
Hey, you look like a deer caught in the headlights when I said that.
The opening pitch.
I'm not surprised.
Uh,
At our next meeting, should we talk about additional events for next year?
I think we need to start getting them on the calendar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually like plan in November. We try to plan out.
Okay.
Yeah, what we're gonna
because-
be doing.
Yeah, because do we have a meeting in December? We usually don't.
I don't think we did last, we could if we need to, but
There's so much going on.
I know.
It's just when it gets
It's
close
just-
to the holidays, it was difficult.
I mean, I get it, but it's, and I do realize many of you put more effort into each time that we meet than I do. Okay, but I gotta tell you something. I am so excited from the prospects of what we have here. It's one thing about being a part of a board to do something. It's actually something different to really settle in and do something. And I think that's where we are as a group. I think everybody's pulling in the same direction. That to me is exciting.
Looks like we're gonna have a big year. I was gonna say, everybody bring your ideas for next year. Joe, you've already brought your ideas. so-
We need
I
to-
know, you're not done, I know.
We need to make that master calendar out there. so
Yes, we do.
And capture that information.
But before COVID came, we had an event every month. I want to get back to doing at least that.
Yeah.
So,
And there are some other things that I would like to do.
Mhm.
My background with the National Security Agency and some things about this area Joe doesn't capture. Okay, the Nike missile site over next to Hozak,
Right,
where the missile silos were when they built Northway Mall. Okay. You know, Neville Island, where they built nuclear submarines. Okay. Now, I realize that may be off of.
No, those are
No.
just great topics. I mean, you can.
well, I mean, we've done the
always pull
Nike
things from
missile site,
collection.
and people love that.
Yeah,
We had
there was one on the
somebody come
Nike.
Talk about the nuclear sites.
Yeah,
But no, there's,
And then, you know, you have other things. There are pensions in time here that happened when we had an escaped convict for 2 days.
that's right. He shot the sheriff from,
Yes, Shot the Allegheny County Sheriff.
whoever was transporting him down to the county jail.
yes.
Yeah.
Then you had
that's
in
right.
the area, you had in the 1970s, you had Jill DeJohn. You had places that are haunted, like the place in North Park. You and I, when we were in high school.
Blue Mist Road.
Yes,
I just did a program on that on Monday at my
I
library.
would love to do
Yeah.
something at the Heritage Center. And then, you know, there are other things that I'd like to see done, like the heritage that we have as North Allegheny students, the painting of the pump house every year. That
Yes.
thing has to have
I think it's about this big, actually, with all the paint.
You know, so, I mean, I'd like to delve into a bunch of different subjects. And not that I have to be the one presenting them, because I don't have exactly the melodious tones of some speakers. But I do have fun doing it. And I think it's important to the kids that live here today that they understand the history of where we live.
Okay,
Doggone it.
okay.
Well, like next month, that should be like a primary on
Right.
our list. Is that
Does anybody know if we have a history of the McCandless family since we have that new picture?
Ooh,
Yeah, we need to get that up too.
That was one of my
That's
questions.
a great point. And you know what? We're gonna have to do a little digging, I think.
We need to do
John,
research.
speaking of that, do we have a date for?
I'm gonna have to talk to Jeff about that, because it's over there.
It is,
Yeah.
it's there.
It's beautiful.
I would like to be there when
It's
we do it,
absolutely
It
beautiful.
is, it
because
is.
it's very old and it seems very
Diane, did you
fragile.
find somebody to take your place on
Um,
Saturday?
So
Give me a
I,
day,
um,
okay?
Uh,
Give me a
if
day.
you
I'll
could,
try and
if
get
you
it
could
done.
touch base with
Yeah,
him tomorrow.
I
would
hated the
appreciate
short
that.
notice, but it's work and I have to be there.
is that the painting of the?
Yeah.
The Judge McCandless.
It was when he was a baby.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's really cool. Very cool.
It looks like something out of the Louvre. It really does.
And then, was it Toby or was it Bob that communicated with the family?
Bob was the one who primarily did it.
Bob was?
Yeah,
Okay. Because it would be nice to like have more information about it.
Mhm.
And
I can
then,
go back and look through my emails and see if there's any tidbits from there, but then we can just sort
Put
of
it
probably reach
together.
back out.
I
Okay.
thought you were gonna say, did Toby paint it? No, Toby didn't paint it. Come on, Abby, that was funny.
it was fun.
She's smiling. I'm so excited about this park read. I cannot golf, but man, I'm
You know
gonna be
what?
there.
I will teach you how to golf on a par three.
Yeah,
You will have
I'll eat
a
the spaghetti.
ball.
Okay,
You have a ball.
There are some people
Spaghetti.
who would spend $50 to have their son or daughter play that.
You know what?
Yeah,
There's no
definitely.
doubt. That's why, I mean, it's a great
That's why
idea
it's
to have it
genius.
twice.
Yep.
You do it once in the spring and once in the fall, you get two totally different sets of people.
all right, so next meeting, we start scheduling everything in for next year,
Okay.
Yeah.
getting the slate full.
Do we have any hidden heritage booklets left?
I have to look at my office.
Okay, because there was a woman in who asked Georgette, she said, do you have any, like, we don't want, obviously, we know the contest is over, but we just had so much fun doing it, we would like to get another one. So if we could just take them over to the center and sell, can we sell them there?
Yeah, for a donation, I mean, for
Yeah.
a donation, just,
$25.
Yeah. How much do we sell them for? 10?
25 bucks.
I think it was 15.
15, yeah.
Yeah, if you have any, We can look.
Because we were.
Supply chain issues, 25.
I have one of the originals. I could be persuaded to sell it for a price.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, by the way, guys, I went down to look at some of the yearbooks and take pictures because Diane Chanel had passed away.
Yeah.
And we don't have all the yearbooks.
Were you in those boxes?
No.
I was in the boxes.
Okay.
It was me.
Little mouse.
Well, the ones I wanted were all the way on the bottom and they're super heavy. And so
Very heavy.
I thought, I'm gonna
No,
get my
I-
husband to come and put these back and I never
I
did.
went in the back where the racks are and,
Those were the duplicates.
okay. So
what
do
year
we
was-
have a set of originals?
They're in the library.
They're in the
upstairs.
library upstairs.
Okay, I didn't. I
What
didn't-
year were you looking for?
Anything with Chanel in it. I mean, I was looking for 79, 80, 81, 82.
Yeah, they should all be upstairs.
Okay, well, I
Yeah,
went
if
downstairs because.
There's a display, because I did a display for the class of 80 and I remember seeing Miss Chanel in there.
Okay,
You know what, I have, she taught at Marshall.
yeah, and she finished at Marshall. She was.
Yeah,
teaching
but,
at high school.
and my wife worked there, but I had some yearbooks from Marshall that may have her picture in it.
Well, you know what, we did a dedication to her and Janice Hape. Chanel was a longtime coach at
Mhm.
North Allegheny. She coached girls basketball. And Janice Hape was one of our Hall of Fame inductees. And both of them died in the course of the last like 4 months. Janice Hape was actually a member of the 1976 Olympic team.
Okay.
So, and she passed away. So their group that she was on an All-American, relay team that all came back for the Hall of Fame dinner. We honored both Janice and Diane Chanel during that banquet. So that's why I came over and got the pictures. I think it's exciting that the football team wants us to
Very.
Yeah, that is.
give the heritage.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It's a lot of money.
It is.
Because you know what? You have 3 middle school teams, you have a freshman team, you have a JV, and you have a varsity. Now, I think the JV and the varsity will get together, but it's still like $750.
It's
that we're
it's a
gonna
whole
get for-
annual appeal.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, any public comments, Suzanne? Carolyn? No.
Come on, speak up, Carolyn.
Okay, so,
You didn't answer my email today.
No, it was a busy day.
Look at you.
all right, so motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
Hey, thanks